Welcome. This is the DBA office hours session. I'm going to try some new things today with the webcams because I bought a second webcam. So these are the questions that came in earlier through the Ask Tom office hours page. So the first one is, should I wait for 18 or should I upgrade to 12.2? Just so people don't think I'm biased because I work obviously inside Oracle, and it's fairly obvious that it's in our interest to have people upgrade as frequently as possible or be as close to the most recent versions as often as possible. It reduces our support effort, etc. So I just want to rest assured that I'm going to try to put aside that bias, because before, I've only been at Oracle for 2 years. Before that, I've worked with Oracle products for about 20 years, almost exclusively in the private sector around the world. So I know the pain. I know the thing of when you've got a version of Oracle that's running just fine, and someone says, well, it's coming up to out of support, or it's getting a bit old, or there's a particular feature, but it's only in the next version, etc. There's that you want to upgrade, but also you know that there's that risk factor involved, and there's going to be a big effort. And often as DBAs, we're not the people that control the decision-making process. We can go to our management and say, look, I'd like to move to version X of the product. And they say, well, we haven't got the budget for that. And what's the risk, and what do we gain, etc. I used to be of the opinion, and this is for many years of my working life, that if I had a version of Oracle that was working fine, I would do as little as possible to that version. And I think that's a common theme with DBAs. We're naturally cautious people. So why rock the boat? If I have a perfectly working product, why would I upgrade to the next version or apply a patch set even, unless something is really mandating me to do it? That obviously has the benefit of obviously less effort as well. If I can upgrade only once every few years, most of the time when we're working in systems, we have these giant, they become giant projects. I have a friend just in Perth recently, and they're embarking on a 11G to 12 project. And I had lunch with her, and she said, yeah, it's a 2-year project. I just about fell off my chair. I honestly believe that no upgrade project should take 2 years, but that seems to be the case. I sympathize with that concept of let's not upgrade unless we absolutely have to. And most of the places I worked, we were on 11.2 and we didn't go to 11.204 until all the other versions were out of support. And then, we're going to stay on 11.2 for as long as possible. Now, I've changed my tune on that. And this isn't just because I've joined Oracle. I changed my tune about, I reckon 5 years ago. And that was, I'm now a big fan on upgrading actually quite frequently and quite almost as versions and patches come out. That may raise alarm bells for people thinking, my God, that's just a huge amount of effort. And what about the risk factors involved? But I'll try to justify why I think you should upgrade generally as soon as releases come out or thereabouts. When you upgrade less often, I don't think you actually save on testing effort, because when you're going from say 10.2 to 12.2 or even 11.1 to 12.2, etc., it is a big jump. It's often a big jump. For example, we've gone from single tenant to multi-tenant. It's a big jump, and understandably, I think the risk profile is much larger. And so that's why people do get scared of the big testing effort. And don't get me wrong, I think Oracle, when I obviously worked for the company, we've occasionally shot ourselves in the foot when just a minor patch set has actually sort of had a large functional increase. And if you've done any reading of the various blogs out there regarding 18C and onwards, we accept that. We're trying to address that by doing smaller incremental pieces of functionality now with the newer versions from 18C onwards, hence the renaming. So don't get me wrong, I totally accept that there's been times in the past when 11.202 to 11.203 had some fundamental change in the kernel somewhere, which for some people caused all sorts of problems. But I think we acknowledge that, and we're trying to improve upon that. But I reason to think people want to be upgrading relatively quickly and relatively frequently is the change in functionality will be smaller, so the testing effort should be less. The other thing is, I think you actually get a more responsive support from Oracle itself. I know people love jumping on the criticized support bandwagon, and I used to be guilty of the same thing. I'd get upset with Oracle support from time to time. But having now worked on Ask Tom for a couple of years, I realized that it is amazing how much you get questions that are support related in terms of how would I do this, why isn't this working, and yet flying blind with someone's question, which simply says, this is the error message I'm getting, what's the problem? Without knowing every single thing that led up to that point in terms of what the applications are, etc., is really, really hard. So I do have a much more sympathetic eye towards support now. But if you think about your support experience, if you're on a version of Oracle that very few people are still on, and you're jumping to the latest version of Oracle, I would much rather be in the camp of 1 million customers that are upgrading from 11.204 to 12.2 than 12 customers or 10 customers who are going from 10.105 patch set 4, patch set 3, bundle patch 2 with 2 other special one-off patches to 12.2, right? You're in a very small group of customers with that particular upgrade path. The likelihood of you finding interesting or anomalous behavior during that upgrade is probably higher than if you're in the soup with thousands and thousands of other customers. And also internally, when Oracle's doing a lot of its regression testing, we're going to be doing the vast majority of our regression testing on the standard path. You've gone from 11.202 to 03, to 04, 12.1, etc. So I think you'll get less problems, but if you do encounter a problem, you'll get a much better experience, much better access to expertise within the support organization, because there's a lot more volume of knowledge about those particular standard paths. So if you start skipping lots of jumps, I think you're actually heading into a riskier territory. Not just because you sort of get to end of life and then to support things, but putting all that aside, you actually just get to a greater risk profile. So for me, I think upgrading sort of steadily and frequently, and still with a mind to doing good testing, I think is that's a more sound approach in my opinion. The other one is, the reason I believe this is the case is the most common criticism that Oracle takes when people do upgrades is not necessarily, it's occasionally people get Aura 600s and kernel problems and things like that, or crashes. But the vast majority of issues that in my working life I've always had when I upgrades is change in performance. And obviously that's related to SQL performance. There's been a lot of work, and I stress that you should go read blogs.oracle.com/optimizer. It's Nigel Bayless runs the blog now. There's been a lot of work we've been doing in Oracle since 12.1 to improve the way the optimizer stability works as you move through upgrades. And don't get me wrong, that's an acknowledgement of the fact that we probably screwed up a bit when we went from 11.2 to 12.1. We had a great swag of new ideas for the optimizer in terms of its adaptability, but we shipped 12.1 with them all turned on. And so, for a whole lot of people, half their systems got a whole lot better and half their systems got a whole lot worse. And that's the thing that everyone remembers, obviously. So after that stinging response from our customers, we put a lot of work into making a much more smoother optimization path when you go to 12.2 and onwards. And in particular, one piece of technology which is so underused, incredibly underused, which I think is an awesome piece of technology, is SQL plan management and SQL plan directives. And I was at a user group meeting. Some of the customers gave me a hard time because I said, if you've upgraded from 11 to 12 and you've got performance problems, then it's your own fault. And people didn't like that. But here's my view on this, is with SQL plan management, you can lock down the plan that you're currently having in version 11 to make sure that when you upgrade to 12, you get exactly the same plan. Right? And people have often worked around this by setting optimizer features enabled to 11 when they move to 12. But even if you set optimizer features enabled to 12, if you lock down your critical SQLs or SQL plan management, they're going to run the same plans when you move to 12. And I ask people, why don't you do this? And they're generally saying, well, it sounds too complicated, or I didn't really know about SQL plan management, etc. And it's probably true we haven't advertised it as well as we could have in terms of a mechanism for upgrading. Often we push the model of, if you want stable plans, SQL plan management. But we probably haven't pushed the message of, if you want stable plans across upgrades for the sole purpose of moving to upgrades, we probably haven't advertised it that well for that. But it's a very cool technology for exactly that purpose. Lock down the critical plans, move to 12. You may choose to leave them there forever. In my view, you would slowly ease off some of the plans, such that over time you would see maybe 12 can do a better job with some of them. But by having those SQL plan management directives in place, you can lock the plans in. Obviously, there's the opposite situation. If you've got a terrible 11 system, it's just running like a dog, then why wouldn't you move to 12? Like, things aren't going to get worse. If you've got a terrible system running 11, I'd move to 12 and take advantage of all those new optimizer things. Sure, there's probably going to be a couple of regressions, but you would hope that the vast majority of bad SQLs would be the same or better by moving to the new version. So there's my thoughts on upgrading more frequently, which of course comes to the fundamental question is, do I go 12.2 or do I go 18C? I would start looking at 18C today. Now, obviously you can't do it on premise at the moment unless you're an Exadata customer. If you are, lucky for you, good luck to you. But there's nothing to stop you from running 18C in the cloud. Now, don't get me wrong. I can see everyone leaving the call going, oh, here we go, cloud sales pitch. Not trying to sell you anything. When Oracle 18 was in beta, I had access to it inside the organization. I can run 18C databases. I can spool them up and the like. Now that it's production, it's actually harder for me to do so because we're moving on to the next beta release and people are working on that. So to actually get access to a fully fledged 18C production environment for me is actually more difficult now that it's gone production. So I did what any of you can do, which is simply I went onto our cloud database. In fact, I can. This is just SQL Plus, and as you can see, I chose a very secure password of system/Oracle. But DB18 is I went to cloudoracle.com, signed up for one of those free trials. That gives me a month of playing with an Oracle 18 database. So even if my organization is thinking, well, I can't get it on premise, I'm not Exadata, I can't even look at 18, why would I even consider it in terms of an upgrade path? Well, I would say you can. You can jump on and start learning about the new features, but also, with this simple cloud database, and you can see it's just a normal database, etc., running SQL Plus, a stock standard Oracle database, running 18C. I can play with the new features, but also I could actually load some of my existing data, my existing applications, just on a smaller scale, and just see if the more critical things are going to work. I don't think there's an excuse to say 18C is not available on premise. I should do nothing about it. And the other reason I think you should probably move through 12.2 and then to 18C is 18C is really just 12.202. It's just a rebadged version. 18C is actually the first major patch set for 12.202. We've renamed it because it reflects this whole new model we're accommodating, which is every 3 months we'll get you bug fixes, improvements in stability, and incremental new functionality. Someone's asked me today, I'm on 11.2, what do? I would go get to 12.2, it's available on premise, start playing with 18C, but look toward whether your organization can adopt the advice that I'm giving you, which is rather than it's got to be 12 or 18, it should be now we're going to start incrementally looking at smaller, less risky upgrades on a more frequent basis.